Next cast member, originally from Texas and Arkansas, Johnny Cameron, has been in Oklahoma since July. Johnny served in the U.S. Army twice and discharged in 2010. Johnny says sometimes he is a menace to society, but overall he's a good guy.
I want to thank everybody for coming out, and it's true, I have been a menace to society a couple of times. What happened was, about a year ago, I was in Minneapolis. That's where I was living at the time. And I had a girlfriend there, and things didn't go well. I got kicked out, and I started living in a homeless shelter. I was a homeless veteran there for a while. Now, I wasn't the sign-carrying homeless veteran that you see on the side of the road, you know, looking for $1. I was the kind of homeless veteran that has an iPhone 6S, a car, and a job. And so one morning, and I remember it was late October. I was wearing a pink hoodie. I was celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it was about October 29th, in fact. So what happened was I was at a gas station, and this guy walked up to me. There's nobody on the street. I was in a bad side of town. This guy walks up to me, and he says, "Hey, man," he says, "you want to buy a computer or recorder or anything like that?" And I was like, "Nah, man, I'm good." And he says, "Man, look, I just need a little bit of money." And I looked down, and I saw you had a satchel. And I saw some women's handwriting on some of the paperwork in there. And I'm looking down, and I'm kind of looking at this guy, and he was a black guy. He was like really ashy and stuff, and kind of like emaciated. And I could tell, you know, he was on crack. And I looked down, and I looked at him. I was like, man, somebody just got their stuff stolen. Like, dang. And I have a daughter back in Arkansas, and I kind of thought about her, and I was like, man, you know, somebody got their stuff stolen. I'm like, man, I said, how much you want for the stuff? And he says, $100. I'm not paying you for $100. And he said, man, I said, let's go over here. I said, let's talk over inside. And I said, well, I went around to the driver's side of my vehicle, reached down back behind the back of the seat where the flap is. And I said, man, I'll check, see if I got my gun. You better not do anything funny. And I said, yeah, I got my gun. I didn't have a gun. So we pulled around on the side of the street where his vehicle was. He had some kind of a ghetto Kia over there. It was all tore up. Looked like it'd been a war zone. So we pulled it out, and he pulled that computer out, and it was a very new computer. It was a Windows 10 computer. And, you know, he says, he talks about all this stuff. And he said he had a recorder. I said, what kind of recorder is that? Yeah, I handed it to him. And he says, it's a USB recorder. And I said, man, that's an external hard drive. I said, whose stuff? I already asked him 10 times whose it was. He said it was his. Then finally he decided it was his aunt's stuff, and she died. So I said, man, for everything, how much you want for everything? Now, I didn't need any of this stuff, by the way. I didn't want a Windows 10 computer. I'm a Windows 7 kind of guy, you know. So I didn't need any of this stuff, but you know, I had $125 to my name, and I knew I had a $50 bill in my wallet. I said, man, I'll give you $50 for everything. All right, just take $50. So finally, we made the deal. He was happy. He was like super happy, And then, you know, he asked me if I needed anything else. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He goes, you need cars or anything like that? You know, I was like, yeah, man. I said, what kind of cars you got? He goes, man, I got anything you want. I'm thinking about a late model, you know, maybe a BMW. Now, I live in a homeless shelter, by the way, and I'm trying to negotiate a deal for a BMW from this guy. We switched numbers and all this other kind of stuff, and during the whole deal, I also snapped a picture of his green card. I guess you know, talked me into that. That was pretty cool. So eventually, I'm going through all this stuff the next few days and trying to figure out who this girl was. I called a local CBS affiliate up there in Minneapolis to help them on the thing, get them to help me figure out who she was. We figured out we had the same person. We figured out who she was. I called her several times, her work, because she was a music teacher of some kind, according to all of her stuff in her satchel. By the way, a hard copy of her birth certificate was also in there. Anyway, so I figured her name was Chelsea. And I found her on Facebook, messaged her several times, so did the CBS guy. And we're going through, and finally, you know, I was about to give up. I said, man, I don't want this thing. I just want my $50. I was counting on get this girl giving me my money back. Now, the reason why I didn't go to the cops is because I just bought, you know, stolen property. Now, if I was in Oklahoma, I'd be doing about 5 years right now, okay? Now, this is Minneapolis, a little bit different. So, anyway, so we get a call, and she says, hello, is this Johnny? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, hey, this is Chelsea. And I'm like, CJ? She says, yes. That's her name on Facebook. She goes, I said, did you lose something? She goes, yes. I said, what'd you lose? She goes, I lost a computer and all my stuff. And I'm like, well, guess what? I got it. So we're talking back and forth, and later on we're texting, and to do the deal, you know, and she said she'd be happy to give me my money back. She really wanted her students' information back because there was a lot of student info in there. And so we're texting back and forth, and I'm starting to get the feeling maybe she thinks I'm the guy that stole her stuff, and I'm just trying to sell it back to her. And I'm like, whoa, no. So she says she's going to have her boyfriend, meet me at Target in Minneapolis. It's the home of Target. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'll meet him over at Target. So sure enough, I'm talking to the boyfriend, texting back and forth, and we meet up at Target, and his black Dodge Charger pulls into the parking lot over there, and I said, man, I got all your stuff. I went and put the computer on the thing, and I said, here's her birth certificate. I was getting ready to mail it off because I figured I couldn't, give all her stuff, because I figured out where she was. I went to her apartment, rang the doorbell, but she never would answer. And so this guy pulls out his badge and pops. I can't say his last name. He told me not to. I just texted him the other day. So this is Officer Scott, so-and-so, with the Minneapolis Police Department. Put your hands behind your back. And I'm like, oh, so, I was cussing. Believe me, I was cussing. I was put my hands behind my back. He put the bracelets on me, and I was like, oh my God, man, this is not happening. And I was mad at her. Well, he said, man, you're not under arrest. We'll just take you in for a little bit of questioning. I'm like, all right, well, let's go. So he had to put me in the back seat. He wouldn't let me sit in the front. So we went to the police department. We went upstairs, and I told him he was going to get me a donut because I saw the cops eating donuts, and they were. And I told him he was going to get me one of those chocolate eclairs, too, because I saw one. So we went upstairs to the cubicle room, right, where, with the ones y'all saw on TV. Y'all seen them before, right? And so we go over and I said, man, just uncuff me. So I said, I guess I know which one's my chair. So he put me on the other one's chair. Well, the other one's his one next to the door. So he said, man, now what happened? So what happened was, so I told him the whole thing. And it took me about 20 minutes to tell him because he wanted to know everything. I drew him a map and everything, what all was going on. I sent him the picture of the green card and all this. He was pretty excited about the whole thing. He went and checked out my whole story. And he came back and he goes, man, everything you was telling me was the truth. I was like, I know. So he's like, man, and I was angry at her, and he was like, man, you got to look at it from her point of view. Nobody ever does this. Who buys stuff to sell it back or give it back to the person whose stuff it is? Especially if somebody's living in a shelter. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I got issues. The VA is trying to work with me on this, by the way. It's part of risky behavior, whatever that means. So anyway. So we go back down to the vehicle. The crackhead also left his key in my car. He had left a key in my car, and the Officer Scott wanted the key back, and I was like, sure, man, go ahead. We went back to the car, and I was like, this time I'm sitting in the front seat. He's like, sure, go ahead. So we drove back over there, and he asked me if I wanted to be a CI because he really likes me, and I'm like, well, what's that? No, I heard about it before, and he goes, it's a confidential informant. I'm like, oh, you mean a snitch? And he goes, we don't really like to call him that. I said, well, what do you want me to be, like some kind of, what do you call those people, the consultant? Yeah, that's what they call them. So I was going to be a consultant, and I said, man, really, I don't find trouble finds me, which isn't always true. So anyway, I go back over there, and I snap pictures of the car and all that kind of stuff, sent it to him. Apparently, and I'm talking to Chelsea now again. We're kind of making up, and she's just really happy, and she's verifying to where I told her I was staying. I said, Chelsea, everything I told you was truth. I'm a veteran staying in a homeless shelter, and blah blah blah. This is what happened. And eventually, the Minneapolis Police Department gave me some money, and that was kind of cool. Definitely offset a lot of stuff. And when I got home that night at the shelter, there was an envelope and a bunch of clothes they donated to the whole shelter. And I didn't know that was there. The shelter lady come up to me, and she was like, Johnny, she goes, you been involved with the police lately? And I'm like, no. And I had no idea what she was talking to. Now, this stuff happened over the last 3 or 4 days, and I have no idea what she's talking about. And she goes, well, some people come by here and said, you've been, I was like, oh, that, yeah. Oh, now I know what you're talking about. So, yeah, apparently I was. And she told me that, and Chelsea dropped some money off and all that, and that was pretty cool. And, I didn't tell anybody that story. For a few weeks, I told my sponsor, and he was like, this is going on the last few weeks when you were calling me? And I'm like, yeah. Now, this is a guy who's lived a very interesting life. And I told him this, and he looks at me and says, man, you lived a very interesting life, haven't you? I'm like, well, I guess I have, The point of all this being, just because we have issues, I know I do have a lot, doesn't mean I have character, integrity, and honor, and values, and all these kind of things. I've done a few things I'm not proud of, just because, sometimes good people do bad things, but sometimes good people do good things too, huh? And this kind of thing really isn't altogether unusual for me, It's one of my better stories. It's the one I chose. Anyway, I'm Johnny. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to me, and this is my brave.